It's the Andrew Christopher Show with Andrew Christopher, your host.
So I was all like, Om Mani Padme Om, meditating, and then this human-looking breast is staring up at me from the ditch.
It's the AC Show.
It's the AC Show with AC, your host. Check it out.
Hello, guys and gals. If you enjoy these previews of my podcasts, remember you can subscribe to my Patreon page monthly for the full episodes without this annoying message or any other advertisements, and much, much more. By supporting me in this way, you will be supporting my initiative to help introduce the power of music to youth and young adults in my community through songwriting, jamming, recording, general music mentorship at my studio at very little or no cost to their families. If you aren't able to support me in that way, I hope you'd consider supporting me in other ways, such as buying my new album or other merchandise from the shop on the Patreon page, or by buying a ticket to a show of mine, which I post on my Facebook and Instagram pages. Another way is simply by sharing this podcast with a friend, family member, or colleague that you think may enjoy it. I always appreciate the support, and I hope you guys enjoy the show. Well, I want to start off this episode by saying thank you to everyone who has subscribed and joined my Patreon page and has been checking out the podcast and blogs and music. I hope you've found some value in there. I appreciate the feedback, and I hope you continue to tell your friends. On this podcast, I'm going to be talking a bit about my relationship to meditation practice, and then, of course, explain what I'm talking about with the severed sex doll. So I thought we would start with the meditation. Oh, what's that? You want me to talk about the sex doll? Yeah, no, you're going to have to pay attention to this first before we get to those goods. I've recently fallen into an almost daily practice of seated meditations. 10, 15, 20 minutes, somewhere around there, most days is what I'm doing. And this kind of started about 5 years ago, just after Ledger was born and we had moved into the new house. I was kind of introduced to meditation through a few podcasts and books I had listened to and read. My very first experience was early in my 20s, in New Zealand, actually. Sat down for meditation, but I don't remember much of that. I don't think it sunk in. Wasn't the right time of my life. But I do remember that first mantra that was taught to me, Om Mani Padme Hum. It's actually been said in some Buddhist texts to kind of be the condensed form of all Buddhist teachings. The literal translation in English is something like praise to the jewel in the lotus flower. Anyway, you can read the Wikipedia on that just as well as I can. The first thing I want to mention about meditation is it's very much a practice, something you need to do over and over again to get better at it. It's kind of a weird way to talk about it. It's not that you're trying to get good at meditation, but one of the things I came up with that I'll return to in the podcast later is, practice meditating until you enjoy it, and then meditate because you enjoy it. That's kind of more of the point rather than getting good at it. And it is something that takes time to become comfortable, just like going to the gym. We're constantly told how important it is to exercise our bodies, and that the more you do it, the easier it gets and the more you enjoy it. And it's the same thing we need to be taught constantly to exercise our minds. Treat it as another muscle that needs to be worked, the most important muscle in our body that can grow and develop and change with practice. And meditation is one of the ways to do that, and something I've found very helpful in my life. Some of the benefits I've seen from it that I would associate with my meditation practice is this explosion in creativity in my writing. Also, an improved memory, which has been really weird for me because I've always had a terrible memory. Jamie will tell you all about this, and I've actually found over the past couple years my memory has started improving for random things around the house, as well as childhood memories or early adulthood memories that I have started kind of coming back to me randomly, but also short-term memory. Hey, where'd you leave the keys? Oh, did we do this yesterday? Yeah, we did. Oh, we just saw that person and had this conversation. Things that usually I would have struggled with are starting to come a bit easier. Now, this next one, you may have noticed a little frog in my throat, or a little more nasally than usual, hence why I was putting off this podcast for so long. So forget the fact that I'm just getting over a cold, but I have been sick way less over the past couple years. Again, Jamie can attest to this. I used to be getting sinus infections really bad, constantly missing gigs or singing through gigs with a sore throat. But my immune system has improved immensely, and I'm very happy about that. My reactivity, parenting, marriage, dealing with kids or your spouse, it's getting better. That's probably the piece I could still see some improvement in, and I am constantly seeing this improvement. And it's about creating that little bit of pause between what's going on and your reaction to it, or what's happened and how you react. That's one of the main benefits of meditation, is creating that space between what you're stimulated with and how you react to it. Those are a few of the benefits I've seen and felt that line up perfectly with this meditation practice. But you'll notice I said I started practicing meditation about 5 years ago, and most of these benefits, I would say, have become quite clear in the past 1 or 2 years. Just emphasizing that point that it'll take a bit of time to see benefits. It'll take a bit of time to get comfortable with this. Okay, so it's a practice. That's why it's called a meditation practice. But if you keep it up, you will see these things improving in your life. And on the other side of that is a bit more of the whimsical, mystical, hippy-dippy type of, the moments of realization, purpose, belonging. The biggest one being a unity that I've felt. Just that cliche, hey, we're all in this together. We are all one. We're all the same with Earth, Mother Nature, peace, love, and happiness. And it's a real feeling you get to feel so connected with the Earth and everyone around you. And just realizing that everything we do affects each other. Anyway, that's okay. Going off on a bit of a tangent there, but if you ever want to try feeling some of that stuff, meditation's a good way to get there. And it's been such a source of joy in my life over the past 5 years. And the scientific benefits, yes, proven. Again, you can go to Wikipedia, read it just like I can, but stress reduction, improved mood, better sleep, improved memory. It'll boost immune system, coping with anxiety and stress, improved focus and attention. Again, all these things I can attest to for sure that I've seen in my life. And maybe some of you have noticed in me as well. When I was on a walk, and yes, this is going to lead into the sex doll story. But before that, I was walking, thinking about my marriage, thinking about what I can do to help situations a bit more, being thankful for Jamie's grace that she shows me when I make mistakes. And I realized one of the things I need to work a bit harder on is not working so hard on being a better husband and friend and parent. Because when you work too hard on that stuff, you miss the point of life and living in reality. It's don't try so hard to make your kids good kids. It's don't try so hard to have the perfect marriage. When you're really wrestling with it like that and uber focused on everyone being better, you're bound to miss a lot of the joy that is in that moment. And at that time, you need to pause and look inward, be a bit more forgiving to yourself, and, realize that, well, for me, I believe life is there to be enjoyed. And if you're not enjoying it, you're missing the best part of it. So find that joy in everything you do, working on yourself. For me, the one I'm wrestling with is the anger piece. And even your anger, find the good in it, the sacred anger, I've heard it called. And it's kind of being present with your anger, being interested in what's going on, being curious about it, not just reacting right away. And you can feel this emotion building up in you when you're getting angry, whether it's heat or whether it's tightness in your chest. And if you can take that extra second and just feel that, notice it, and think, whoa, that's intense, kind of feels good. Okay, what was I working on here? What was I thinking about? And then react, bring yourself down, or at least acknowledge that feeling that you have of anger before reacting. And you'd be surprised in how much that can help your decision making. And so if you just catch yourself when that elevation of energy happens and this interesting feeling, then deal with what you're dealing with appropriately. Like I said about meditation, creating that space, you'd be amazed what that split-second gap can do for your reactions, your relationships. There's this guy, Jesus, from this book called the Bible. I'm sure some of you have heard of it. I don't consider myself a Christian, but I do believe this Jesus guy had a lot of good stuff to say. And one of the things he said was, know thyself. A call for us to look inwards more and to understand ourselves, understand our minds, understand our hearts a bit more. And to me, that's kind of in line with just allowing yourself to be, not to do and think and react as much, but just to be present and know yourself. And the more I accept myself and who I am and what I feel, the more I notice it and understand it, the better decisions I seem to be making. So instead of working so hard on myself, I've been trying to allow myself just to be who I am at this stage and act from that place of feeling and acceptance and knowing myself. I've heard from a few people when I start talking about this or explaining, and they ask, well, then if you're just supposed to kind of be and not do anything, why meditate? Isn't that doing something or trying to get better? And I can see where that comes from, and because talking about this stuff is very tricky. I don't have all these answers. Again, I'm just talking from my experience. And I mean, words certainly start to fall short. We can all understand that, not just in talking about meditation, but in trying to explain anything to anybody. Words eventually will fall short of trying to help someone understand what you're feeling or what you're talking about. And hopefully I will have someone who might classify themselves more of a expert on some of these subjects on to talk about it. But when I think of that, why meditate? Isn't meditate doing something and trying to get better? Yeah-ish, but it should be fun. And it should feel good. I heard it put well that meditation is your natural state of being, or when we are ourselves, when we are in our natural state, it is very meditative. There's a flow to it. I'm sure you guys have had this feeling of zoning out, and then you come to and you're like, oh, what's going on? Sorry, I wasn't paying attention. It's, I feel like there's something to do with that there. But instead of zoning out, you're actually zoning in. But I think it's a very similar feeling where you're there, you're present, but nothing's going on. Nothing is affecting you. There must be some kind of blurred line in there between zoning out and zoning into a meditative state. Some similarities. So this zoning into what life really is going to be enjoyable. It's going to be fun. And if you practice, if you get the hang of it, you will start seeing this. I'm very confident in saying that. Practice until you enjoy it, and then practice because you enjoy it. Don't work too hard at it. Don't struggle with it too much. Once you find yourself struggling, realize that that's kind of you. It probably would feel like you're talking to yourself in your head, right? If you think, oh, this is so stupid, I'm not doing it right. Those are thoughts going on in your head that you can actually let go of and move on to noticing something else, maybe something you see or something you hear, not thinking about what you're noticing. I'll get into more of this later. I want to get back to that point of once you start hating it or once you start thinking you're failing, you're missing the point. So just like when you're working out, you hate working out. You're at the gym. This is stupid. I don't want to do this anymore. Probably not the best way to get through a workout, right? Put on some good music, notice something good, have some fun, stop suffering in your own head and get back to the real world. Don't suffer through the workout. Stop thinking it sucks so much. Feel your body or hear the music. Same thing. Don't suffer through these meditations. Notice that you're in your head talking to yourself. Move back into the real world. And this is what you can do in all aspects of your life. You can enter these meditative states, but sitting and practicing is a really good way to learn how to do that. You got to put the time in, just like in the gym. Practice, work out until you start enjoying it. And then you do it because you enjoy it. And I feel like I've just gotten to that point in my meditation practice that, I would love to go on a weekend meditation retreat, not because it's good for me and that I want to get better or be a better person, but because I'm enjoying it. I see those benefits, but I actually enjoy the practice itself. So I'll try and explain a bit of how to meditate or what seems to work for me. And I would assume it's because I'm a musician, always around music. My sense of hearing is really tuned in and turned on. And so for me, auditory cues are a good way for me to come back to reality. It's one of my strongest senses. Maybe yours is different. It could be sight. It could be feeling. It could be thinking, I guess. I don't know how that one would work, but it could be smell. And so for me, it's the auditory cues. And so it's listening not to your self-talk in your head, not listening to the thoughts about what you're hearing, but listening to the sounds themselves in kind of just a pure informational way, almost like a data entry, trying not to label the sound or talk about what it is or look for it. It's about hearing the sound for what it really is, just the sound, not the label that it is, not what you think about it. So it's not listening to the thoughts in your head about the sound. It's about hearing the sounds that appear out of nowhere, naturally, on their own, and then hearing the next sound. Or maybe it's the same sound of the same bird chirping. And if you can focus on that bird chirping without starting to think about a bird chirping or think about, I wonder what kind of bird that is, any of these thoughts that come up, if you bring yourself back to the sounds, just the raw sound itself, it can create these incredible experiences. Really hearing that sound differently or like you're hearing it for the first time. It's beautiful. And then again, if you get lost in these thoughts about tomorrow or yesterday or what you're hearing, what you're listening to, or how stupid this meditation thing is, that's your cue to just try listening again. If it's getting boring, that's you thinking in your head, this is so boring. So again, get out of your head, get back into the real world. Focus on something outside of your thoughts, or just notice that thought, accept it, let it melt away, and notice something else. Go through your senses again, focusing on the actual experience, what's going on around you. What do you see? Oftentimes you meditate with your eyes closed. You still have a visual field that you can see. Sometimes you see squiggly lines or little specks of light. I know Sam Harris likes to talk about it as the sky of the mind. So when your eyes are closed, you still have this visual field, and it's kind of like looking up into the big black sky, and you see little specks that can be stars. You can notice that. Try not to start thinking about it too much, and notice it. Or it can be something you smell or something you feel in your body. Usually where meditation teachers will start is to get you to notice your breath. Because your breath is also something that happens without you having to think about it. Just like the sounds you hear or what you see. You don't have to think about these things. They just occur naturally, like your breath. So noticing your breath. How does it feel to breathe right now? Whether you notice that, you can feel it in your belly or your chest or your nostrils. It's just feeling the sensations that come along with breathing, noticing the breath. Some people would tell you to count it. Maybe count backwards from 20. Count your breaths. I've told this one to the kids and trying to help them get to sleep. Haven enjoys it. She likes trying some of this stuff. One of the funny things I like to do, which maybe this is a bit too much visualization or thinking, but there's a little man on my upper lip. You know that old cartoon? That's it for the preview. If you want to hear more, go to patreon.com/Andrew Christopher.
Yeah, we really call it the AC show. Really call it the AC show. It's the AC show.
It's the AC show with AC, your host. Check it out.